I did not plan for those two to help me pick up my own mess. But you know what? That illustrates outward and visibly shows us how we are to live together in the church. Someone else might make a mess, but we are called to help come along, to walk along and with them, and to help them. In this case, me, the mess I created. They walked along with me and helped me pick it up. That's what we are to do in church, isn't it? We observe, we watch, and rather than making fun or pointing fingers at those who make the mess, we are to walk along with them and help them as best we can. Our scripture reading today is found in the Gospel according to St. John, chapter 21, excuse me. This is following the scripture that we had read last week, just a week out from Easter. This is just 2 weeks past Easter. Thomas's account of his doubting, his questioning, and his commitment to the faith. And then chapter 20 ends with that there were many other signs that Jesus did, revealing himself to be the Messiah, the Son of God. And yet still, a number of the disciples had gone back to their normal day-to-day life. They had left what they had been doing with Jesus, and they went back to what they had done prior. And that was fishing. And this is where our story continues. That after these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. And he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, I'm going fishing. They said to him, we will go with you. So they went out and they got into the boat. But that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, children, you have no fish, have you? They answered, no. He said to them, cast the net to the right side of the boat, and you will find some. And so they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it all in because there were so many fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. And when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the full net of fish, for they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards off. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there, with fish on it, and bread. And Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish that you have just caught. And so Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. And though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come, have some breakfast. Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? Because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the 3rd time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, feed my lambs. A 2nd time, Jesus said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, tend my sheep. He said to him the 3rd time, Simon, "Son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and to go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this, he said to him, "Follow me." May God add his blessing to this, the hearing of his word. Let all of God's people say amen.
Amen.
Well, this is a brief account that we've heard, but it's only a limited sight of what occurred. We're only given a partial picture of what we think occurred. It's limited. We have a witness who wrote the story for us and passed it on from one generation to another, and we have it yet today. But there was lots of other stuff around this story that we just are not clear about. We're just uncertain of. What all happened on the shore of the Sea of Galilee that day? Peter, dodging questions, as Peter was apt to do. Dodging questions like many of us are apt to do. And Jesus acting sort of like an attorney and or a police officer, investigating what was going on, asking all sorts of questions. And I'm not sure about your particular household, but in our household we have a habit of going through periods of time where we watch a particular TV show called Law and Order. Anybody else here? Do you know how many different offshoots there are of Law and Order, by the way? 7. Did you know that? There's Law and Order, which we've watched for years, because it's been on for 20 years. Since 1990, there's been a Law and Order. But did you know there's also Law and Order SVU, Special Victims Unit, Law and Order Criminal Intent, Law and Order True Crime, Law and Order Hate Crimes, Law and Order Los Angeles, Law and Order Trial by Jury. There's probably going to be another one coming up too. We get enthralled, we get caught up in these kinds of shows that ask all sorts of questions and tie in together the investigative skills of law enforcement and the attorneys that work with them in our court systems, asking such wonderful questions such as, what is your date of birth? July 15th. What year? Every year. Question. You were there until the time you left. Is that true? So you were gone until you returned. The youngest son of the 20-year-old, how old is he? 20. All right. This is one of my favorites. What was the first thing your husband said to you when he awoke that morning? He said, "Where am I, Kathy? And why did that upset you?" "Because my name is Susan." In our story from the Gospel of John, Jesus is asking Peter a series of questions. He's repeating because we know and he knows about the denial that occurred before the rooster crowed, the times of 3 that he denied. And so Jesus asks this question over and over and over again. pushing Peter's button, I suppose you might say. But there's also something else going on in this story that we need to be aware of. There are two different expressions for love that is being expressed here. In the original Greek, Jesus is using the word agape, the love of God. The love of God for us all, the love that goes beyond our imaginings. And Peter's response to this love is to use a different word for love. His love is choosing to say filial, brotherly love. The love which the town and the city of Philadelphia is named after. The city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, filial. Peter's using one form of love. Jesus is using another. They are not communicating on the same level. They are not communicating in the same way. They are missing the mark with each other. What about us? I believe the writer of John is purposely intentional about this, asking us, are we listening? Are we really listening to the agape love that Jesus asks us to express ourselves and live into the world with? Or is it different? Is it the love that we choose to take with us? How do we demonstrate? How do we show our love, our care for one another? It is supposed to be, I believe, a new way. The agape love. The love that God gives to us. The God that loves us unequivocally, without reservation, expecting us to treat ourselves and others with this newness, this freshness, this new insight, and to follow Jesus with this kind of love. But we are not always willing and or able. Another one of the interesting things about this particular story is that it weaves together a couple of conflicting stories. That is, it talks about shepherding and it talks about fish, seeming to be incongruous, if you will. It just doesn't seem to fit together, but it does. There's an American tourist who was traveling in the Middle East a number of years ago, came upon some shepherds who were tending their flocks, sort of like the Christmas story. After an exchange of greetings with one of the shepherds, the shepherd turned and called out to the sheep in Arabic, mana, 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 which means come together immediately. And his sheep responded to his voice and came together and followed him, and not the other shepherds that they were around. Responded to his voice and his voice alone. That reminded me, and always has reminded me, as many of you are well aware of the fact I was in the Marine Corps a number of years ago, quite a number of years ago. But one of the things about the Marine Corps which has always sort of set us apart is our reputation and the heritage of boot camp. And the drill instructors, which are infamous and famous, and most all of us that have went to boot camp, we could name you who their drill instructors were. Mine were Staff Sergeant Woods, Sergeant Stewart, and Sergeant Ott. I can still see their faces, and I can still hear their voices in the back of my head. It is something that sticks with you and lives on with you. But also one of the things that I learned in boot camp is one of the things they did near the end of boot camp. After we had been conditioned, after we had learned how to respond, which reminded me of the sheep and the shepherd. Near the end of boot camp, after 12 weeks, after this is probably the 11th week of training, they gathered us together as the entire company, that is 4 different platoons. So there would have been at least 15 different drill instructors. And they had us turn around in formation. And then all the drill instructors from the entire company would haul out a command. Our job as our particular platoons were to respond to our drill instructor and our drill instructor only. Heaven help us, and I won't say what happened when somebody did not, or heard somebody's voice and responded. But trust me, by that point in time, most of us, we recognized the voice of our particular drill instructors. And so when their command came out, we would respond. Sheep, the followers of the shepherd. We are supposed to be conditioned, if you will, in such a way that we have learned how to respond to the command, to the call of our shepherd, our leader, our king, our Messiah. To love one another. To do what the youth did without me even asking. The mess that I made with the cars, symbolizing the mess that we make as human beings in the world around us. I didn't have to ask them to pick up after me. In fact, I even told them, I think you heard me, I told them, you don't need to pick up. I made the mess. You don't need to help me. But what did they choose to do? They chose to help me anyway. In spite of what I did, in spite of the mess that I made, they stepped up and they helped. Your neighbors, your friends, our families, our neighbors, our friends. They've made a mess sometimes with their lives. And so have we from time to time. We are not to stand back and point fingers. We are not meant to stand by and to ignore the mess that we just saw happen. We are meant to do all we can and to step forward and to step up and to help as best we can. Now, as to the rest of the story of the shepherd in the Middle East with the American tourist, the American tourist wasn't quite satisfied with what he saw, what he heard, what he witnessed. So he asked the shepherd, I saw the sheep respond, but my curiosity has the best of me. Will the sheep ever follow anyone else's orders other than yours? And the shepherd replied honestly, oh yes. Oh yes, the shepherd replied. Sometimes when the sheep are very, very sick, they will follow anyone. How sick are we as to follow anyone? Or are we healthy enough, trying to be healthy enough, to follow the true shepherd? Amen.